Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. This is Nipasa Pradhan, and I'm very, very happy to be back again. So, this is another episode, and today as well, we are going to be joined by none other than attorney Uma Mantravadi, who has been an expert immigration attorney and has been practicing for over 3 decades now. So, it's been great having her time and again, with us on webinars talking about different topics on immigration, of course. And before we start off today's episode, I also wanted to tell you about this very important message displayed on the screen as well. The disclaimer, by watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information provided by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not legal advice. The use of information is at your own risk. And welcome back once again, friends, wherever you have joined us from, whether on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you so much. And here we have none other than attorney Uma Mantravadi. Thank you so much, Uma. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Good afternoon and good morning for some and good evening for some. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm very happy to see you, Uma. Yes, I couldn't be here last week, but thank you so much for dropping in here on Immigration and Jobs Talk Show once again today as well.
My pleasure.
And folks, as you can see, the topic for today, we are going to discuss about 221G, the decoding administrative processing with immigration attorney, none other than Uma Mantravadi, and and her law office is Mantra Law Office. Uma, would you like to tell us about your law office as well?
Thank you. Um yes, I've been practicing law for almost 30 years. I've done my law schooling here, graduated from University of Houston with a JD and took the Texas bar. But then I have clients all over the U.S., both corporate clients and individual clients. I represent both for H1s, L1s, E2s, F1s, OPTs, STEM OPTs, deportation. I have quite a lot of students who get into problems because they've not maintained their status and they fall out, or they're working unauthorized. There's so many issues that come up. And these days I see a lot of H1 applicants who get into either DWI, DUI, domestic violence, or drug abuse. So there's criminal immigration involved. So I
Right.
also represent clients in Texas for their criminal cases, so that they're not jeopardized with their immigration part of it, because a lot of criminal defense attorneys do not know immigration law. So it can be a problematic situation. And also, when it comes to domestic violence, there's also immigration issues. For example, if the wife is on an H4, and if the
Mhm.
husband is deported, then what happens to her case? Can she live here independently? Can she get a work permit? These are all the questions that come up. So, different types of cases that I handle. I also do a lot of O1s for cricket players, also for artists of distinguished abilities. I do P3 visas for artists coming from India or from Mexico or from the Caribbean. It all depends what country they're from, it doesn't matter. So it's
Mhm.
not just one particular aspect that I handle. I also handle consular issues similar to the 221G that we're going to talk about today. So, just to give you a background,
Sure.
and I speak
Sure.
about
And
six different Indian languages fluently.
wow, what are they? Maybe give us a hint of each if you can. We'd love to see that.
Sure, sure. I speak, of course, English is the universal language for everyone, hopefully. And then I speak Hindi, and then I speak Urdu, I speak Telugu, I speak Tamil, I speak Gujarati, and I speak some Punjabi.
Oh, wow. I mean, that is quite a wide range. And maybe you want to greet maybe Punjabi folks out there, how would you say hi to them? Maybe.
की हाल है तोड़ा?
So sweet.
And
That sounds
Hindi,
really very sweet.
namaskar. And also Punjabis, they'll say Sat Sri Akal to some of the Sikhs, and they all say Sat Sri Akal.
Right, right. And Tamil, how would you say? How are you
Vanakkam,
doing? Maybe. Oh,
vanakkam.
okay.
எப்படி இருக்கீங்க?
Very interesting. Thank you so much. This is such a treat to watch you speak, actually. So, yes, getting into the topic, I mean, tell us about the 221G. What is it really? And um, w- yeah, the topic today.
Yes, 221G, first of all, is a nightmare to people who go for consular processing. Everybody
Nightmare.
goes in with a fear, will I get a 221G? I know, I'm sure the night before the interview, they are probably dreaming of it, hope I don't get it, probably praying that I don't get it, but we never know who gets it, who doesn't. It's a discretion of the consular officer. But of course,
Mhm,
221 exists in the Immigration and Nationality Act, and it's based on the definition, which means that the consular officer has determined that the applicant was not eligible for a visa after completing the visa application and the interview. Basically, they've determined that something is lacking, and
mhm.
sometimes they will tell them what is lacking, sometimes they may not. Will go through all those questions slowly but surely.
Right, right. All right, you've already answered the first question of what I want to ask you next, and that is what is 221G, which you've already covered just now, the administrative processing, and how does it really impact, visa applications? Why do some applications even get selected for 221G and others don't?
Okay. Well, obviously something is lacking, as I just mentioned. On a broader perspective, let's say, for example, if somebody is going for an H1 and they did not bring their end client letter, or they don't have an offer letter from the employer, or they don't have any documents to prove where they're going to be working, or if the individual answered, I don't know where I'm going to work, even though the I 129 specified a location. So then the investigation begins if the H1B has employee has a bona fide job actually waiting for this individual in the United States. So it all depends what you say and what you provide, what you don't know, what you haven't given. Sometimes it all depends on that. So there's
Okay.
different color coding paperwork that is issued on a 221G, and we'll go through that slowly but surely. I don't want to start off with that, but that's something that
Yes.
explains, what exactly can happen, and every case is different. So again, there is no copy paste. If one individual got a 221G and the next one got a 221G, they can be for two different reasons, because their cases are different.
Different.
And again, if you try to respond based on what A did and B is doing what A is doing, it can be completely wrong. So you have to
Hmm.
base your response, if they're asking for documents, based on your case, but not based on the other person's case.
Right. Right. And you were saying it's a nightmare. So why would you say that?
Because the moment you get a 221G, it's a nightmare for the applicant, because then they know, hey, I'm stuck here. Let's say somebody is going for a restamping, especially if
Mhm,
they're, been on an H1, they had an H1 stamping before, or they're on an F1 and they're going for the first time to their home country, and they get a 221G, and now they don't know how long they have to wait, because
mhm.
they don't give you a time frame as to how long the 221G processing can be. And so, you can be there for a month, you can be there for 3 months, 6 months. I've had people even as long as 1 year. Let's say somebody had a criminal case, they were charged with a theft, and of course, the case was either dropped or dismissed, but still they're going to go through all of the documentation to ensure that this person is free of the criminal charges. They don't have them anymore. So the consular officers will conduct their investigations to make sure of that. So every case is different, you know.
Hmm. Okay, moving on to my next, which is already displayed on the screen. Can anyone appeal to 21G decision or withdraw their application if it's taking too long?
There's no appeal because 221G is typically not a denial. So you can't appeal. And generally, at a US consulate, most cases are not appealable. You can't file an appeal. There's no process for that. But yes, you can withdraw your application for the H1B or the L1A or L1B stamping or your
Hmm.
F1 or whatever case might be. You can withdraw and reapply if you feel that it's taking too long. Maybe if I reapply, I can give the same document and maybe get a better result now that I know what to give. But I'm not saying that truly that would be the case. It's again going to be the decision of the consular officer whether he or she feels that you've provided sufficient documentation or something is lacking on your behalf.
Okay. Okay, very interesting. And well, I'll just greet folks out there who have dropped their comments. So, Atoha on LinkedIn, Tej on LinkedIn, Ranbir, Romy once again on YouTube. Hi to all of you. Thank you so much for joining. Neha S, Ravi Teja, Kavya, Rav, yes, Ravi Teja again. So we'll be taking up your questions for sure. Stay with us, okay? We'll be very happy to answer them for you. But for now, let's move on. Uma, I have another question, and that is, how long does 21G administrative processing typically take? And you already said that it can last from a month to a year. But yes, and what can one expect, during this time? So can
Well,
one expedite?
go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, it's cool. So can one expedite the 221G process? And if so, how?
Well, first of all, 221G, again, as you put it in your question, is an administrative processing. It means that a clearance or approval is necessary from an agency in Washington, D.C., or a related agency. It could be even the USCIS for an H1 or for an L1. If they feel something needs to be clarified from an agency, they're going to send it up to them. Now, how long will
Mhm.
USCIS or an agency in Washington take to respond back to the US consulate? You know, we don't know. And there are cases where there is uncertainty about the applicant pertaining to security, as I mentioned. Let's say, my name, I go there and my biometrics brings up a red flag. Maybe there's another Uma in Florida who's committed a crime, and maybe her date of birth matches my date of birth, but I'm not the same person, obviously. But
Mhm.
they want to run through security checks to make sure, you know, that I'm not the same Uma who was in Florida or is in Florida who's committed a few crimes. I'm just giving that as an example. It could be a criminal issue, or it could be even from a country they come from. For example, if somebody is coming from Iran, maybe there can be more security checks for them. It all depends what the officer determines at that point, or if they are being employed in a field that has a technology alert. For example, if I'm a scientist and I'm
Mhm.
working in a nuclear field, That could be something that can be a technology alert for the consular officer. So they're going to send this back to the agencies to do some background checks on these individuals. And again, how long will it take will depend on those agencies, how soon they can come back. Now, your next question, can one expedite the 221G process? Typically not, but let's say I'm on an H1B and I'm working on a multi-million dollar project, or I'm working on a project that is connected with health issues, especially, anything to do with, even now with COVID or anything similar to that, where my presence on that project is very critical. Maybe the employer is going to lose millions of dollars if I don't come back and complete that project. The employer can possibly send a letter to the U.S. consulate, pressing those issues, what can cause them losses if I don't come back in a timely manner to complete my project. I'm just giving examples.
Hmm.
This may not apply in a situation like an F1, or may not apply in a situation like maybe an H4 dependent. Again, maybe an H4 dependent. There is a situation. Let's say the H1 applicant is going to go through a major surgery, and her presence as a spouse is required. Then those medical records can be submitted, and maybe the consular officer will try to get it expedited through the other agencies who are doing this process.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Uma, for taking that up. Were you going to say something else? I thought you would.
No, no,
I
no,
apologize.
no. Go ahead.
Okay.
No,
All
that's a
right.
lengthy
I
answer.
I wanted to take up these questions actually, and they look very interesting and they're directed towards you. So this is from Ravi Teja Sama in LinkedIn saying, Hi, Uma Garu. My H1B visa was refused in 2022 at consulate side after 221 under 2 212A 6CI. Still my I-129 showing as approved, and my employer didn't get anything from for reaffirmation, I guess that's what he means. Now this year, again, my name was picked up in the lottery with new employee. Sorry, the whole thing is getting cut off. The half of it is getting cut off. I'll read it though.
Go
Now
ahead.
this year again, name was picked up in lottery with new employer. And shall I proceed? Will there be any effect with 212 now? And if everything is good, will they approve it? That's it.
Okay. I don't, I cannot answer that question because I'll have to see why you got a 212, a red flag, 221G. I'll have to look at your documents, Ravi Teja, before I can answer your question. So I'll have to individually consult with you with your documents. Yes, you can definitely apply for the visa stamping. I don't see the problem by not applying now. Will the 212 issue come up? I don't know the answer until and unless I know all the details about what happened in 2022, why you were refused. I'll have to get your documents, talk to you individually, and then only answer that question.
Thank you still, Uma, for, saying that. And Ravi Teja, I think I can say that you can directly contact Uma. Her details will be shared very soon. And thank you so much for your question. And if you still want to ask further questions, maybe give more details and also tell us where you're joining us from, it would be of great help. Let's move on, let's take up another question.
Sure.
This is again on LinkedIn. So this one is from Raghavendra. Hello, Uma. I am 221G from past 2 years with no updates. Have been selected in lottery again this year from a different petitioner. Can I proceed with the new one, or I have to withdraw the previous one and proceed?
The safest bet would be to withdraw the previous application if it's still pending. And then once your H1B has been approved, I know you've been selected this year, but it has to be approved. And then if you need to go for your stamping, definitely I would withdraw the previous application and then file, because definitely you can't have two applications at the consulate. They'll wonder which H1B you're going to go with, you know. So definitely, if you feel that you're no longer with that employer who's been, whose application has been pending for 2 years, obviously, I'm not sure if you have a job with a bona fide job with that employer. And if you don't, I would definitely withdraw that and go with the current one. So, short answer to that.
Okay. All right. All right. There's another one from LinkedIn. I think we should just take that up as well. And saying, hello, Uma. I am 221G from past. Oh, this is the one we took already, actually. Okay. Great. Anyway, we will take more questions. So, folks out there, keep posting your comments. Yes, I can already see. So, stay with us. We will be taking up your questions again. And Uma, for now, I wanted you, if you can explain the difference between 221G administrative processing and a formal visa denial, and how do I know which one I have received?
Well, when you get a 221G, it clearly says it's an administrative processing, meaning they have not denied your application as yet. They're saying
Mhm.
we're lacking some information. As I was telling you in the beginning, you know, once you get a 221G, then you get a colored slip, okay? And they're different color coded. One is
Yes, I
blue, one is
remember.
pink, one is
Yes.
white, and one is yellow.
Hmm.
Now, depending on which one you get, it tells you what is happening with your case. For example, if you get a blue color 221G letter, then it says that you must submit more evidence. And they might typically give you a list of documents that they want from you, and or a standardized form that they'll print with you know uh, clicking them with an X mark. Sorry. And that could be something, or they may specifically state what they want. It all depends on the officer. Now, if you get a yellow, it's just being processed, and the delay is not from the applicant side, meaning they don't want anything from the applicant. Basically, the delay is from the consulate side. So they are saying, don't worry, we don't need anything from you, but we have our own internal delays, lack of, um, you know, uh, employees, lack of whatever they have. They're unable to process it. Now, how long would all this take? They're not going to give you time frames, unfortunately. They're just going to, you know, give you these little slips. And when they give you a pink, usually pink is supposed to be a good color, but pink raises suspicion, meaning they're suspecting that you don't have a bona fide job, or, if I'm an F1 student, maybe my sponsor is not good, or there's some suspicion about my sponsor document. Maybe
Hmm.
my sponsor's bank statements or bank information is incorrect, or raised some red flag. It could be even for a family base, for that, um, Rajani. For example, if there is a red flag that my marriage is fraudulent, if they feel like, sorry, Nipasa,
Hmm.
my
It's
bad,
okay.
and
It's okay.
you know,
No, I can
um,
totally relate because I remember you were talking about this to Rajni in the previous episode, the slips, the little slips of colors.
sorry about
So,
that, my
no
bad.
worries.
And
No
so,
worries.
it
Yes.
could be a fraud that is raised because of my marriage. Maybe, something about my marriage. They have got a suspicion that this could be a fraudulent marriage just for green card purposes. So it can
Hmm.
happen in
Anything that's
anything.
not fitting.
It's not just a non-immigrant, it can be for an immigrant visa petition as well. A
Hmm.
221G is across the board for everyone. So, and a white one is the most complicated. It can be suspicion, it can be documents, it can be much more, and I'll go into details with that.
Okay,
So,
cool.
if it's typically a 214B, then that's an outright denial. They're saying you don't qualify, and you don't qualify because of blah blah blah, or they'll just give you a 214B, and it's for you to sometimes interpret or find out from an attorney why you got a 214B. For example, if I'm an F1 student and I've not shown sufficient ties to my country, that I'm going to return back, somehow I've given them the impression during my interview, if they ask, hey, once you finish your education, what do you plan to do? And if I say, well, I love America and I want to live there forever, I just want to be in California because it's so beautiful. If I say something stupid like that, I'm not saying somebody will be saying that, but slip of a tongue. If I say something like that, I'm never going to giving them the impression that I have no intent to come back. They're
Hmm.
going to give me a 214B and say bye bye because we don't feel that you're going to come back. I'm just
Right.
giving you examples.
Thank you, Uma. That was helpful, really. And just now, since we answered Raghavendra's question, he says, thanks for answering my question, Uma. It would be great if you could share details on withdrawing application. Okay.
You just have to you have to send them a letter, or look out if there's emails available. I would just send them a letter using FedEx or whatever, DHL, some kind of proof that you've requested a withdrawal,
Hmm.
and don't expect them to respond immediately because they have a million cases and they're not going to immediately say yeah it's gone, or it
Hmm.
may take time, but at least if you keep the proof and you file the second application and the officer says, hey, you have a first one, but you can show them proof that I did file for a withdrawal and I never received anything.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for taking that up. And thank you, Raghavendra. I hope that answers your question. Well, I will also take up this follow up from Ravi Teja saying, hi, Uma Garu, once again. Just now, I messaged regarding to 12. They asked me to submit few documents, and I submitted those given by employer to consulate. After 2 months, I got denial email with 212. If everything is good with new employer, will they approve? Please note that I am genuine working employee. And
Um,
Ravi Teja
Go ahead.
also continues, Raghavendra Hillas. I think you can send email to consulate to close that application. That's all I think. Well, he's also answering others' questions. That's great. But anyway, Uma, if you could answer Ravi Teja's question.
Well, as I mentioned to you, Ravi Teja, unless I look at your documents, I won't be able to answer what happened with your previous case. I'll have to look at everything and then only give you an answer. So you may be a genuine working employee. I don't even doubt about that. But I cannot tell you without reviewing all your documents what happened. Things get complicated, then I have to look at documents.
Right. Everybody's case is
You're
different.
more than
So
welcome to reach out to me, and I'm sure Nipasa will put my contact information, and you're more than
absolutely. Yes,
welcome
you
to
can
reach out.
contact Uma, and the details are on the screen, friends. You can call her in the number 713-787-5297. Please note it down. I'll repeat 713-787-5297. You can even email her at uma@mantralaw.com. And definitely don't forget to visit her website, www.mantralaw.com. All right, I think we are definitely going to decode more on this topic. And friends, today's topic is 221G administrative processing. And this is today's discussion with none other than attorney Uma Mantravadi from Mantra Law Office. And today we're discussing about why it happens, what it means, and how to resolve it. So stay with us. We will take up all of your questions, hopefully, and we'll just go for a short break now. Stay tuned to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show with me, Nipasa Pradhan.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry, exceptional employee benefits, highly rated by our employees, global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients. Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higherightpeople.com or visit our website www.higherightpeople.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. This is Nipasa Pradhan, and today we are having this very amazing discussion with immigration attorney Uma Mantravadi from Mantra Law Office, friends. And today's discussion is on decoding 221G administrative processing, why it happens, what it means, and how to resolve it. And we've already taken up some questions from the viewers out there. And also, thank you so much for following up, for joining us also once again on this show. And it's such a pleasure to have you because your questions make this show an even more interesting one. Right, Uma? It's always nice to have all these participants and to have this very interactive session always. Uma, you're muted if you can. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Cool.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Okay. It absolutely helps when people ask questions because the same question can be applicable to maybe 100 other people who may be going through similar, I won't say the same, but similar situation. So it's always good
Very
to
true.
have an interactive session with our viewers, our listeners who are joining us on different platforms.
Right. All right, let's dive deeper into this topic, Uma. And I got this next question for you. And that is, if you can tell us, how does this 221G impact the ability to change or extend status while in the United States?
You don't get a 221G while you're in the US. The 221G is only given when you are filing for a non immigrant or an immigrant visa stamping at the US consulate.
Hmm.
You don't get. But, however, having said that, recently the US CIS announced that it's going to do some domestic visa stamping for, I think, a max of 20,000 people to ease the you know influx of cases that they have at the U.S. consulates, especially India. So they started the domestic U.S. Visa stamping, and
Hmm.
so you may see some people who are using the domestic visa stamping facility who are applying for whether it's a non-immigrant or immigrant. Mostly it is for non-immigrant. There was no immigrant visas that they were going to do. So if somebody gets a 221G, then they'll have to respond depending on whether they got a pink, white, blue, or yellow slip.
Hmm.
So depending on what they got, they'll have to respond according to that.
Right. Right. And so, friends, everybody's case is also different. So keep on posting your questions, and you should definitely contact Uma also directly. Well, hi to Ravi on YouTube. We will take up your question. And before we take your question, Uma, I also wanted to ask you, How does the 221G affect dependence applications? And can they proceed with their own processing while there's this pending?
Let's say I'm just going to give as an example if somebody is applying for an L1 or an H1. If the principal applicant is pending a 221G and has not received their H or L or F or whatever non immigrant visa, then obviously the dependents cannot go because the principal has not gone yet to the US. So the
Mhm.
dependents cannot go without the principal being approved.
Okay.
Same thing,
Interesting,
like for
interesting.
example, if somebody is filing for an H1 extension in the US also, I'm just giving that as an example. If the principal's H1 extension is denied, obviously the dependents will not get their H4s extended.
Right.
It's a domino effect for them. If the principal doesn't get it, they don't get it.
Okay. This is interesting, Uma. It's been interesting so far, this whole discussion. And let's take up Ravi's question. Yes, on YouTube. He's asking, I got a 221G white slip for administrative processing during my in-person interview at Chennai consulate, and they returned my passport on February. Since then, my application status is showing refused, and recently there's an update to March, however, no change. If if status, no change of status. So can I drop an email and ask about the status?
You can. Um, the USCIS issues a white slip to a visa applicant, Nipasa, when it falls under the complex category of Section 221G. This usually happens because you've not provided enough or required evidence during your visa interview. Therefore, your case will require additional processing based on the documentation that you provided or the information that they receive. If they feel there's some doubts that they have and they have to go more in detail, they're going to go very much into detail and they can deny it if they feel that they have not received the required documentation or they're not convinced with the required documentation or their investigation proves something otherwise.
Okay. Thank you so much, Uma, for taking that up for Ravi. And Ravi, I hope that suffices the question you asked, Uma. And let's move on. Let's take up a few more questions from the audience out there. Let's take up this one from Ranbir. How does administrative processing differ from visa denial or approval? I think we already took.
Administrative processing is clearly saying it's pending. Denial is a denial. Approval is an approval.
Okay, as simple as that, Ranbir.
Absolutely.
All, yeah. All right. Let's move on to Romy. Romy had joined us in the previous session. Thank you, Romy, for joining in again. Saying, I have my H1B amendment petition and H1B visa approved with the new amendment, but my wife submitted my old petition for her H4 221G case. Will this be an issue?
Yeah, she'll have to update this information since you've had an H1B amendment and your H1B amendment has been approved. So I would ask her to update the US consulate by submitting your amendment because they don't know that you've had an amendment. So it would be
Mm,
good to be proactive and submit the documentation.
cool. Romy, go ahead. You should just update them then. All right, let's move ahead to Kavya. Kavya is saying on YouTube, I'm currently experiencing a 221G administrative processing delay with my H1B visa application. My case has been pending, and I am concerned about the impact on my employment and immigration status. So, the question asking in the next slide is, can you provide guidance on the most likely reasons for the delay in my specific case? And what legal strategies And next steps can I take to resolve the issue as quickly and efficiently as possible?
I wish I could give you any specific reasons without knowing your case individually. And
Mhm.
221Gs, there will be delays. We cannot tell you how long it takes. You're more than welcome to reach out to the US consulates by sending them an email or a letter and see, what they're going to respond. But um, there's nothing to expedite, as I said, unless the employer can prove a reason why they need you immediately and what are the losses they can face if you're not in the US. So I cannot tell you individually what legal strategies you can take without knowing all the details about your case.
Right, Kavya. So I would suggest you just stay with us and you will get the information if you haven't already noted down Attorney Uma Mantravadi's contact details. So you can already see it's scrolling under the screen. So note it down and let's move on, Uma, to my next question, which I have for you. And that is, if application is ultimately denied after
Mhm,
221G processing, what are the options for
mhm.
reapplying or seeking review?
Sometimes the consular officer will also reconsider if you want them to reopen and reconsider. That is an option. There's no appeal, but there's an option to reconsider depending on each case. So one can request an attorney to write to them to reconsider. Hey, I made a mistake at that time. I didn't give you all the documents, or I was confused and I misread what you wanted, or I misunderstood and replied the wrong way. So maybe, now I'm more prepared to give you better documentation
Mhm.
to clarify any confusions that I may have created. So that is a possibility. I'm not saying it's absolute, it's going to be the discretion of the officer if they wish to reopen the case, but there's a possibility.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much for taking that up. And let's move on, to the next question I have for you, Uma, and that is, what are the legal implications of a 221G decision, and can it be challenged in federal court?
You can sue a consulate in a federal court here because of jurisdictional issues. But you can always reach out to an ombudsman's office, or you can reach out to a congressman or a senator
Mm-hmm.
if you feel they have completely wronged you. And if it's an employment base, you cannot do that, but your employer has to do that. They have to reach out. If they feel that their employee was wronged, everything is genuine, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing that was said that was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But before doing that, I would secure all the documentation, what was said, what was given, and to review that before, going to a senator or a congressman. And then if they find out that somewhere you people did not give the proper information, or there was some misunderstanding, miscommunication, it's not going to be a happy situation for them. So you need to thoroughly investigate your own case through an attorney to find out, did you do everything right? I'm going to sit here and look at my own picture and say I look the most beautiful person, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not for me to judge myself. It's somebody else who is competent, who has to sit and judge your case independently to determine whether there was something wrong and should you reapply by giving the proper documentation. So get it evaluated. I wouldn't just do it on your own. This is my advice.
Okay. Thank you so much, Uma, for taking that up and for the advice as well. The tip is, I hope, helpful to all our viewers also. So keep posting your comments, friends. We will take them up for sure. And Chandra, thank you so much for your question. I will take it up. But before that, I just wanted to ask another question. And Uma,
Sure.
that is, What is the impact of 221G on the ability to travel internationally? And can a person be denied entry to other countries if on 221G?
Not really. Again, it's going to be, let's say somebody's applied for the US H1B visa, and now they're applying for a student visa in Canada. They would definitely question if you've traveled elsewhere, if you're intending to travel elsewhere, and you have to be honest and tell them that you have filed and your application is still pending review from the US consulate. If they are honest, that would be a better answer. And and they will look at your documentation individually for their country, from their country's requirements. It's not based on, if you refuse the Singapore visa, doesn't mean you'll be denied a visa to China or to Malaysia. Every country has their own requirements. So you've got to convince that consular officer that you intend to come back, whatever you're going there for, and you intend to comply with their regulations while you're in their country. If you're going
Mhm.
there to work, you will work for that employer. If you're going to study, you're going to study at that university. You're going to pay the fees. You have the ability to pay. You're going to give everything.
Okay. So hear it out there, friends. Thank you so much, Uma, for answering that as well. Now let's take up Chandra's question. And Chandra on YouTube is asking, I did my H1B Dropbox along with my husband and daughter H4 on 12th of March 2024. I got 221G. Today they asked me to come for interview along with LCA, I-129, 3 years W2, last 6 month pay stubs. So can you suggest what kind of questions will they ask or what should I get prepared for?
Again, unless I look at your 221G, I can't tell you that. But if they've asked you for all those documents, you need to go prepared. That means they are not convinced that your husband has a bona fide uh, job, and they want to make sure he's actually working, which is why they're
Mhm.
asking for his pay slips. They're asking for the LCA to make sure that he's getting paid as per the LCA, and he's actually working for the employer that who petitioned his H1. So they've got a red flag and they're just checking for all that. What exactly
Nothing to
can they
worry
ask?
about.
They can
Yeah.
ask anything more. They can ask for, tax returns. They can ask for anything more. Doesn't
Mhm.
mean it stops at that, or it can stop at that. And if they are convinced, then they'll come back. They'll ask you to come pick up your passport with the visa stamping, or they'll mail it to you, whatever they're going to tell you.
Okay. Okay, so nothing to worry about. I mean, if your husband's work and everything else is on place, all the documents are okay, all you need to do is provide. So nothing to worry about, Chandra.
Absolutely.
I think you should just go ahead. Yes. And let's take up Raji. Raji is saying appointment confirmation says visa priority is 221G. Isn't 221G given after the interview? Why is it mentioned before the interview? Okay,
Well,
this is
if somebody is
interesting.
making an appointment for specifically post interview for a 221G interview again,
Okay.
they're making an appointment for that, then that could be why it is already there.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So, Raji, I hope that answers your question. If you have any more, you can post your post it in the comments. We are here for another 10 minutes or so, so we will be able to take it up. Now, next one is from Sakshi. Sakshi is saying, I recently received a 221G letter requesting additional evidence for my visa application, but the request seems unreasonable, very broad, or unrelated to my qualifications or immigration status. So, how can you help me push back against these requests and advocate for a fair and efficient processing of my application without jeopardizing my chances of approval or facing further delays or denials?
Sakshi, I can't answer your question without looking at what exactly your 221G is, what type of case, whether it's an H1 or an L1. I don't know anything about your case, so I cannot say if their requests were unreasonable, or if they're going on a fishing expedition, or if it's unrelated. You may again think it's unrelated. For them, it could be related. So I don't know from what perspective they're coming unless I look at all your documents, including your application, your petition, your supporting documents. I'll have to look at everything to determine. But if there is something that is unrelated, you can specifically answer that, but without knowing whether it's unrelated, or if you think it is overly broad, I wouldn't just say, hey, you're asking me something that is overly broad. I'm not going to answer that.
Mhm.
This may lead to a denial if the officer feels that you're being abrasive and not responding to that. So I would be very careful. I would run it by an attorney before you make any uh, comments or decisions about this. So
Right.
how would you
Always
get this
safe.
done? This is like an RFE. If you tell an officer you've given me an RFE asking all of these, you don't have a right to ask. Um, they have a right to ask you everything.
They're right. Yes, that's so true. That's so true. You just have to provide whatever they're asking for, more evidence and more evidence. So, Sakshi, I
If
think,
it's not going to hurt you, if it's not bothering you in any way, you know, I would give it to them.
right. Thank you. Thank you, Uma, for taking that up for Sakshi. Let's move on, Uma. I have another question for you, and that is, how can you help? Uh, sorry. How do Administrative Procedure Act? Okay, can you walk me through the administrative law aspects of 221G, including the role of Department of State and the Bureau of Consular Affairs and the Visa Office in the decision-making process? So all these three different categories.
This is going to take me a few hours to go through all this. I would
In
suggest
brief,
you
Uma.
can
Yeah.
go to the Immigration Nationality Act, look up 221G, review the Federal Register for all this and the CFR if you want to. And that gives you all the information. And it would be overly cumbersome for me to answer that question here. So I cannot educate you on all that, whoever has asked this question. But yes, you're more than welcome to look it up. It's all there and it's for you to read, to interpret. These are complicated issues, and it's not something a layperson can understand the legal language. But I'm not stopping you from that. Please go ahead. And as I mentioned right in the beginning, the US Immigration Nationality Act has the 221G, and you can go and review that completely. It'll give you all the information.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Uma. And let's move on quickly to the next question, which I got for you. And that is, how do the Administrative Procedure Act, or the APA, and the Immigration and Nationality Act, the INA, inform the legal framework for 221G determinations? And what are the potential avenues for judicial review?
Again, it all depends on what 221G you've received, whether it's a white slip, pink slip, blue slip, yellow slip, and if they have requested documentation you've provided and you're waiting on it, your employer, if it's an employment based, your employer can reach out to them through the ombudsman if they feel that this is unfair, it's taking beyond reasonable time. Then they
Mhm,
can reach out to them saying that, hey, we filed an H1, we need this person, we're not just playing games here. We have a
mhm,
project for this individual, and if they don't come, how do we run our business? We're liable to lose thousands, millions, whatever they're going to lose. So let the employer reach out, whether it's to a congressman, to an ombudsman, to the US consulate, to the State Department, whoever they have to reach out to based on what 221G you've gotten.
Right. So it'll all depend on what it is about. So, friends,
Absolutely.
every case is different. And I think yours also will be different, but it's always best to consult an attorney and move ahead with a good direction and all your documents intact, and you know where to go, and how to present yourself, with the attorney's guide. So
Absolutely.
I'll say
I'll just
let's.
give one example also. It may sound harsh to some people, or but the fact of the matter is, for example, I'm educated, you're educated enough, all of us are. But let's say I have cancer, I can go to WebMD, read everything that is there, and try to see if I can cure myself. But obviously, I cannot, because there's somebody who's called a doctor who specializes in that field, who knows exactly how I should be treated individually again.
Mhm.
My body can be different. If somebody takes chemo and it doesn't work for them, they might try something else for them. Whereas maybe my body works good with chemo, or good with radiation, or good with something else. I don't know that. So one has to go to the expert to decipher all this information. It's not going to be easy to understand this. That's why it's called the practice of law. We practice law day in, day out. We understand the nuances, the finer nuances. We read
Yes.
in between the lines to understand what they're not saying, to provide the information and documentation to them. So, this is something that we have learned by practicing law over years, and I've been doing this for 30 years. So,
30
and I'm
years.
not saying I know everything, I'm still learning, and I will still continue to learn. But that's why we have continuing legal education each year. We go to conferences, we have mentors who teach us as well. So, this is the learning process we go through, but then experience teaches me how to handle a case individually for each given case. I don't myself copy paste anyone's case to another case. So, this is something I tell people over and over again, do not copy paste.
Thank you, Uma, and absolutely, it is true. So let's take this interesting one from chats on YouTube. This is from Nirlep, if I'm pronouncing it right. What legal resource do I have if my 221G administrative processing has been pending for an excessive period? And I believe it's due to unfair or unlawful targeting based on my re- country of origin, religion, or political beliefs. How can you help me hold the US government accountable for potential discrimination or violations of due process? Okay.
Once again, as I mentioned right in the beginning, there's very little legal recourses against the US consulate. If you want to take it up to court, one, I have to look at all your documents to determine there's been a religious or discrimination, or a political discrimination, or a country origin discrimination. Now, just because somebody is coming from one country and they ask for those people of that country for more documentation, it does not mean that there is a discrimination, but due to security reasons, high security reasons, they may ask for additional documentations from certain countries, and there is nothing that becomes a violation of due process, because they've already stated that some countries will be required to provide more due to the country of origin. But if you feel, Nirla, that somebody is discriminating you because of race, religion, or political beliefs, or country of origin, also, you can definitely reach out to an attorney and see if you can file a lawsuit against the government. That could be
Okay.
an option, but I don't
Mhm.
know that without knowing all the details about your case. I cannot blanketly say you can but I cannot say you cannot. But you should definitely consult an attorney who can file a lawsuit against the government if you strongly believe in that.
For sure. Nirlep, even if you want to talk personally with Attorney Uma Mantravadi, the details are displaying on the screen. They're scrolling down. So please note them down. And before we end, let's take up just one last question from the audience. And this one is from Megha. Megha is saying, are there any common misconceptions about 221G administrative processing that you often encounter?
Not misconceptions, but I feel 221G comes up because of certain inconsistencies in the documentation or inconsistencies in the responses given at the interview. For example, like I said, if I've had a client who went for a student visa and he didn't even know which university he was going to.
Mhm.
When the officer asked him, by the way, are you going to go to University of Houston? And he goes, I am not sure. So he wasn't even completely sure where he's going and what he was going to study, what was his major. Now, is this out of fear, out of, whatever he went through at the consulate? I don't know the answer to that. But lack of being prepared and giving inconsistent responses with inconsistent documentation is what is going to raise the red flag for them to give you a 221G. So, I would definitely be prepared before going for a consular interview. Talk to an attorney. Nipasa, I sit here day in and day out and have Zoom consultations with people from India, from Malaysia, from Saudi, from Dubai, from every
Wow.
country, from Australia, New Zealand. They call me before going to the consular interviews saying, ma'am, what documents do I need to carry? In my case, we go through the checklist not once, twice, thrice to ensure because sometimes the consular offices can be changing their requirements. So, we update a client as to what else is required. More is better than less. Preparedness is always good.
Mhm.
If, for example, even if you're going for an H4 and they ask, where does your husband work? And if the wife say, I don't know, all I know is he sends me money. I know he's working, he's getting a paycheck. So those
Mhm.
are the things that is going to create red flags. They're not saying the husband is not working, but you've created a red flag now.
Mhm.
Just like the lady earlier saying that they asked her to bring all the husband's LCA, the W-2s, the pay slip. So somewhere that was a red flag. Either the individual didn't answer everything accurately, or there was a miscommunication. If I'm trying to say something, but I've said something else.
Something else, right? Right. Anything could be the case. So I think it's always best to consult an expert, and that is none other than expert immigration attorneys. So always consult your case, and you'll be having a proper direction on how to move ahead. So that way, it's pretty helpful, and um, I think yes, that's what is very much needed. So the details are on the screen, friends. Once again, you can check it out, and thank you so much, Uma, for doing this today with us, and
Absolutely.
so
I think
happy
we
that.
might have to do a second session of the 221G because this is a hot topic for everyone.
Sure.
Nipasa, if necessary, I'll be glad to do part two of this if there are more people interested in this. And I see a lot of 221Gs, particularly for H1s, H4s, L1s, F1s, F2s. We see this
Yes.
consistently. There are other visas like E2s, P3s, even artists. I've
Mhm.
had, for example, some of the biggest artists going to get their visas, and they were asked to either sing or dance or play an instrument to prove that they are really
They are
truly
an artist.
artists. and even the big names,
Mhm.
they don't care if somebody is Tom Hanks. I'm just giving as a name. They don't care who
Right.
you are. They just want to know you are in reality going for a show, you're singing, you're dancing, you're playing a violin, you're playing the guitar. So sometimes they have a room and they ask these people to come and actually exhibit their talents over there to ensure that an actual artist is going to the US to perform. They're not averse to people coming, they're not against, but they want to make sure that there is a bona fide intention and a bona fide documentation. And so it's a glove and a hand, they have to go together and everything
Right.
matches, you know.
Right. Very important. Very important. And cannot be like you're saying something else, but you're doing something else out there. So everything has to go hand in hand. And what you say is what you should be, I guess. Man of your words.
Absolutely. And I see a lot of people who take it extremely cool and easy. Um, Sometimes you can be not so prepared when you have that coolness. It's good to be cool at the time of the interview, yes, but prior to that, you need to be concerned and be prepared.
Okay. Um, I think quickly we'll take up this last question, Uma, if you don't mind. Just 2 more minutes.
No,
This is from S. Reddy. I am a Canadian citizen. Could you please tell us about the TN visa process, how long it takes,
again,
etc.?
it all depends, Mr. Reddy. TN visas for Canadians doesn't take very long. The process is you have to qualify for the TN visa, meaning you have to come under the professional list of jobs that the TN requires, and you have to have an offer of employment. And if you have all the appropriate documentation, you can, Canadians, there's a difference. I talked about this, Nipasa, I think, with Rajni way in the beginning one time, that there's a difference between the TN for Mexico and TN for Canada. Canada has an option for the applicant either to go to the consulate and get the TN stamped, or they can go to the border and ask the Customs and Border Patrol to issue a
Mhm,
TN visa right there, provided they have all the documentation. Again, they're going to go through questions, documents, their transcripts, their degrees, they qualify, they have the actual experience in that field, do not. They're going to look at everything. And if they fit
mhm.
the list of occupations as well, as per the TN list of occupations. So I do TN visas, so I'm familiar with this. And Mr. Reddy, if you have a question, please shoot out an email to me. My information is being scrolled at the moment, and you can reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Uma, for taking up the last question for today. And like you said, I don't think it's enough, an episode for 221G. So we will definitely in future, hopefully very soon, talk again about this topic, dive deeper even. So Uma will be very happy to see you again, maybe in the coming week if you will be available. So thank you so much for today, though. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too, Uma. Bye bye.
Bye
And
bye.
to folks out there, thank you so much for joining us wherever you joined us from on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Thank you, all you folks, and especially for all these participation. Your questions make our webinars, our episodes very much interesting. So keep posting your comments, your questions in the comments, and we will be able to take them up even after the streaming has ended. We are very happy to take up your questions. So keep on posting, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Immigration and Jobs Talk Show, and check us out. We are there on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and also on Twitter. So subscribe to us, follow us, share our and be with us. Because we keep sharing a lot of interesting updates about immigration and jobs. So thank you so much for today. We'll see you again. Stay tuned to our channel, Immigration and Jobs Talk Show. This is Nipasa Pradhan signing off for now. Bye bye. Have a great day.
Consultant seeking a new opportunity? We offer job placement services for US citizens, green cards, EADs, and visa holders. We also sponsor various work visas like H1B, E3, TN, and green cards. 20 plus years of experience in the industry. Exceptional employee benefits. Highly rated by our employees. Global presence with 200 plus recruiters and direct clients.
Connect with us. Call us in the number 408-335-6444 or mail us at nipa@higheritpeople.com or visit our website www.higheritpeople.com.